Hello, welcome to the Black and White Podcast. It's episode 13, December 8th. We're recording this on Tuesday as we usually do. And the Ravens play conveniently in about an hour and 20 minutes, but we want to get this episode in, so we're going to do it right before the Ravens game. But welcome.
Welcome.
So my name's Josh, and this is co-host Josh.
Hello.
We're happy to be giving you this wonderful entertainment once again.
Oh yeah, top tier.
It's always every week we, like I said, we have these weeks, and it's every week we think that maybe this week isn't gonna be crazy, but every week has been crazy during COVID season. So I mean, we're really, we've gotten a lot of great games this year, and I've been super happy.
It's been a very good year for football. It's been a complicated year for us trying to do a podcast during it because of just the schedule changes.
Yeah.
But it really has been a great year.
Yeah, it's been fun. But we'll move on to the super spicy hot players of the week.
A great segment.
There were some good players this week. And Josh, why don't you start off with your first one?
So my first one, I know we're supposed to do a player, but I just had to do the Patriots defense. They won 45-0 against the Chargers, and I mean that's no easy thing. Justin Herbert is very good. Austin Eckler, you have a lot of great players. So the Patriots, they were 1.5-point underdogs in this game. The defense came in. The defense got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks. They only allowed 258 yards of offense.
Goodness.
They blocked a kick. And Adrian Phillips led the team with 12 tackles against his former team. So that defense just went off.
They destroyed.
They had one of probably the best defensive performances this year. It was insane. I know it's one of the biggest shutouts in NFL history. I think it's number 2, maybe. Don't quote me, but I think think it's definitely top 3. But yeah, so their defense just went off. You know, as a Ravens fan, you love to see a good defensive play. So it was a really good game. Unfortunately, it was the Patriots, but you know, it was just an incredible play by them. They just all worked together so great. And like I said, the Chargers aren't an easy team to just stop from scoring. They're a great team.
Yeah, the Chargers really have a good offensive unit, and to hold them to no points is very impressive.
Insane. So they were my number 1 spicy hot players with an S. This is a bunch of players of the week. And like I say, Adrian Phillips, he went off too. But yeah, just an incredible performance. Loved it.
My first spicy hot player, super spicy hot player, is Corey Davis. 11 catches, 182 yards, and a touchdown. He was on my fantasy bench, but he still played so well in this game.
Players play the best when they're on your bench.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like that. 11 catches on 12 targets, even though Cleveland finds a way to make the game close, but anyway, I digress, but Corey Davis played very well, though. I will say Corey Davis, he made a very big impact, and we'll see if he can do that down the road, because it seems like Ryan Tannehill really likes him as an asset, and he out-targeted A.J. Brown in this game. So it seems like if A.J. Brown's going to get these targets taken away by getting the top-tier corners, then maybe Corey Davis could eat more down the road.
Kind of like a Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen type of deal.
Even Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
You're totally right. So, we'll see. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster and every other receiver that's on his team, Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. But anyway, every receiver that they've had. But maybe he'll take away targets and he'll get better.
For sure, yeah. No, he played. He had a great game, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
My second super spicy hot player of the week is Baker Mayfield. He really showed up this week. He had probably the best game of his career.
Big show.
Against the Titans, who, I mean, they're a good team, so you had to give him respect for this win. He had 334 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have a fumble, but still 4 touchdowns and 334 yards is very good, especially for a team that's very run-heavy.
Yeah.
And when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I know his like yardage hasn't been like insane this year, but I mean this was a really good game for him. He was on point. It was like everything he threw was just perfect. It was like even the commentators were like, you know, this Baker, we haven't seen this. Like he's just on fire, and you know, like I said, the best game of his career, and it'll be really interesting to see if he can continue this because, I mean, I don't want to say this is the only game that Baker will do this, but. We'll see. It's just the Browns will go as far as Baker takes them, I think. Of course, they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but Baker is, you know, the guy that they're kind of banking on, and this is the play that they would hope that he would have. I mean, you have Jarvis. He has incredible, like, weapons. He has Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, his running backs, as I said. So, Peoples-Jones was playing pretty well. So, like, he's got a lot of weapons, and this is what we all hope for. So you almost were like, you shouldn't be too surprised by this because this is what everyone thought he would do.
Yeah.
But it's just good seeing him finally do it.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he can consistently do it or if it was a 1 week thing. But yeah, he played great. He deserves the super spicy hot player of the week, number 2 spot.
Yeah, no, Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker is just... He just needs... I think Kevin Stefanski's putting the team around him. He's making the right decisions. And as we've said, as we were speaking about earlier, you know, eventually the Cleveland Browns were going to be good. Yeah. They have eventually going to have a regime that's eventually going to make right decisions because they've been just so bad for so long.
Yeah, like you said, like if you're a bad team, you get great picks.
Yeah, if you're a bad team, you get great picks. And Kevin Stefanski left the Vikings and they played very well with they have a tight end dominant system, but they also have great receivers, and that's kind of what the Browns have. Really great running backs, you know, Dalvin Cook, and you have Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph in
Austin Hooper.
Yeah, you have good players. So then you have Austin Hooper here, Harrison Bryant, and Njoku. So you have 3 great tight ends, and you then really only need Jarvis Landry,
Odell Beckham, who they don't even need right now, apparently.
So it's just the Browns just seem like they find a way to win, whether it's on the ground or through the pass. And if Baker can keep this up, then we'll see. The sky's the limit for him.
If he can keep a consistent passing game, they're going to be very hard to stop because they have one of the best running back duos in the league with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's just, can they utilize it? I mean, they usually do, but it's just, can Baker keep up with them, I guess? Can he play up to their level? And, I mean, last week basically showed what they're capable of if he can play to a superstar level.
I'll move on to the second super spicy hot player of the week.
Yeah.
My second super spicy hot player of the week was none other than Davante Adams. He had 10 receptions on 12 targets, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Man.
Davante Adams is... It's just... I feel like it's very difficult to necessarily name your, in my opinion, at least offensive MVP. There's just so many great players in Davante Adams. Even Aaron Rodgers is playing great. Patrick Mahomes, who arguably is the MVP, but... Davante Adams is just continuously playing well, and this is his 4th or 5th 100-yard game this year, and he has 13 touchdowns now, 1,029 yards on the season. Davante Adams is continuing to be one of the top wide receivers in the league. So he is my super spicy hot player of the week.
Yeah, no, in the past 7 games, he has 11 touchdowns. He hasn't 7 straight games, he has at least a touchdown. In 4 of them, he has 1, and then he has 2 games with 2 and another with 3. It's just, he's only had 2 games this season. He was out for 3 weeks, so disregarding those.
1,029 yards.
Every game that he's played.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had 29 yards.
1,029 yards on the season.
1,029 yards, and there's only 2 games that he hasn't had a touchdown. It's insane. He's just playing at an incredible level. And, I mean, honestly, I know he won't get talked about for, like, MVP of the league, but you could almost make an argument, though. For just the play that he's, like, it's just insane. He's just so good.
I feel like you could make an argument for so many other players, and it's like,
quarterbacks always,
but
like,
quarterbacks trump, and I mean, Patrick Mahomes is playing insanely well this year anyway, so he probably deserves it. Let's be honest; he is the most valuable player of the league.
Yeah, I don't know if I was talking to you or my brother, but we were just talking about, like, it's just weird because with Patrick Mahomes, you almost don't even consider him as MVP because he's just playing like Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. You're just used to it at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, like, his normal is, like, every other quarterback's, like, dream, like, elite status.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. It's kind of funny how it works because, like,
he had a bad week this weekend. I think he still had 300. I almost actually made him my super spicy hot player of the week, but he had 318 yards, 1 touchdown, but it was like 25 of 40. That's still ridiculous week. Yeah. And that's like he has only had 1 touchdown only once, and it was against Denver. The only other time Patrick Mahomes has not thrown 1 touchdown was against Denver this year. Like,
that's crazy.
So that's nuts. But anyway, Davante Adams, like, is still such a great player. But yeah, it's just so hard with Patrick Mahomes being in the league. It's hard for him to be not considered the MVP. But
we got to give Patrick Mahomes some love now before we hate him in a couple years. So we got to just go with it.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And then from that, we'll actually move on to, it's funny, we talked about how Baker Mayfield was the super spicy hot player of the week, and I actually spoke about the Browns-Titans last week. So, we'll go into the Browns-Titans game. I said that I thought that the Titans were going to win. And the game wound up being a little bit closer than it should have been because the Browns seem to just have that Browns thing that they do, where they kind of hold on and they wait and they wait. And then the Titans get a touchdown right at the end, and of course it's close. But the Browns really proved here. I mean, like we said with Baker Mayfield, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns. A quarterback rating of 147. So the Browns seem like they're, at least now, that they're really finally starting to get it. Kevin Stefanski's system is working, like we've been saying. And even in this game, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt didn't do anything crazy on the run. Nick Chubb only had 80 yards. He had a touchdown, but Kareem Hunt had only 33 yards.
Yeah.
So they really didn't do much, but then they had, like you said, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, and even Rashard Higgins. Rashard Higgins had led their team 6 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. That's what you want to see from even players that aren't playing overly well. Even Jarvis Landry had 8 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. So Cleveland just seems like they're finally getting the system. Stefanski's getting the system, but as we've said before, it seems like this should be almost expected just because they have they've gotten a lot of really good players, but they still have some injuries. And that's the crazy thing is, once the Browns, I mean, the Browns could be scary good next year. I mean, even next season.
On paper, they're better.
I mean, they haven't even gotten Grant Delpit back. Grant Delpit, they drafted this year out of LSU, and I thought he was a steal for them. Yeah. He was going to start at their safety position, and he tore his ACL. I mean, it's just, the Browns could be way better than they even are now, and they still have a lot of salary cap room if they decide to move on from OBJ. I mean, it's just, like you said, it just depends on how far Baker Mayfield takes them.
I mean, on paper, their offense, minus Lamar Jackson, I would say on paper, their offense is much better than the Ravens, even.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we keep going back to how far can Baker take them? And that's the thing. It's really up to Baker.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, their receivers are really good. Their tight ends are really good. Their running backs are really good. Their defense is very respectable. So, like, they're a good team. And I also picked the Titans last week. Just because I thought they would beat them. But, yeah, it was funny, though, because at work, one of our managers, Tyler, he talked to me the other day, and the Browns are up by a lot, he was saying. And he was saying that you told him, like, it was over or something. He was no, we're the Browns. It's not over yet. So there's still a culture there with, everyone's used to the Browns losing. But, hey, I mean, maybe they're finally turning it around. I don't know. We'll see.
Because they had 28 points in the second quarter. They had 28 points in the second quarter, but then they had 3 the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So they had a field goal in the third, and then... But I mean, you take your foot off the gas a little bit, and I mean, really, they did a great job at shutting down Derrick Henry.
They really did.
15 carries for 60 yards, but Ryan Tannehill even could have been a super spicy out player this week.
I love Ryan Tannehill.
Had 389 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, but his quarterback rating was 104.8. So he threw it all over to obviously Corey Davis, and A.J. Brown had 4 receptions for 87 yards, but really no one else had even over 5 catches besides Ferkser. But I mean, Tennessee they're still fine. They're 8-4. They really need to get their next couple of games are big because they have Indianapolis that is really threatening them, and so they really need to prove that they're the cream of the crop in that division.
Yeah.
And I think they will because Tennessee is a very good team, and Derrick Henry will very rarely not have over 100 yards, it seems.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's a beast, and Ryan Tannehill's really showed that he's a pretty good quarterback. Like, it's just like, really the Dolphins, they just didn't know how to use him, I guess. I don't know. He's very good. I'm a big fan of Ryan Tannehill. I love that
he's come so far from Miami. It's crazy.
Yeah, he was awful there.
Yeah.
And I love seeing him succeed because I feel like he just got a raw deal in Miami.
Yeah.
And I mean, Josh Rosen, they have a bunch of quarterbacks there that I feel like do as well, just because, I don't know. But he went to a good team, or at least to a team that was kind of trending upwards, and he's really played up to their standards and played really well.
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry's given him a ton of help, and it's been just working out great for them.
Yeah.
So they're both very fun teams to watch. But the team that I'm going to be talking about for last week is the Cardinals and Rams. These were 2 teams that did pretty well against each other. The game finished 38-28 with the Rams winning. I believe I picked the Cardinals last week. I don't remember, but I'm going to assume that because that seems like a me thing. The Cardinals are 6-6. Who would have thought?
Crazy.
Yeah, Jared Goff. And I remember last week saying that the Rams are a very, like the Ravens of old, kind of up and down. Depends what kind of Jared Goff you're going to get. He went 37 for 47, 10 incomplete passes. That's it. That's crazy. 351 yards and only 1 touchdown. But he had some help in the rushing game with Cam Akers getting a touchdown with 72 yards on 21 carries. Darrell Henderson getting a touchdown. And Jared Goff added another touchdown on the ground. He had 4 carries, 1 yard, but he did get a touchdown. So 3 touchdowns on the ground, 1 in the air that went to Tyler Higbee. He had a lot of help in the receiving game. Robert Woods had 85 yards on 10 receptions, a really good game. Cooper Kupp had 73 on 8 receptions, also a really good game. And then he had a little bit of help with defense. They got an interception. Troy Hill had an interception and 4 tackles. John Johnson led the team with 8 tackles and an assist. The Rams really came ready to play. They were, the good Rams.
Yeah, they were this week. They were finally the good Rams, and
yeah, we got to see it, and they really showed up, and they look like a scary team.
Yeah. So
who knows what they're gonna do in the playoffs? They're one of those teams that they're kind of, no matter how they go in, they're kind of a wild card. You don't really know what you're gonna get. And, I mean, at this point, I'd be a little bit worried about facing the Rams.
I mean, at this point, they're winning the division. They're 8-4, tied with Seattle. I mean, that division is, that's a crazy division because, I mean, it's like Arizona's 6-6, but it's like, are they really? They have 31 more points scored than Los Angeles does, but they also have given up 53 more points. So Arizona's defense is obviously not as good, but these are division games that Arizona has to get used to winning. Arizona needs to win them. They do if they want to be an elite team.
This is the thing with really good divisions. It forces your team to be good. And this is why, I mean, as a Ravens fan, I don't mind seeing the Browns good because I feel like it kind of forces the Ravens to really be good themselves. So you got to keep up with your competition.
Yeah.
And this division is incredible. So, I mean, both of these teams really have to keep making moves to keep their team very good or they're going to get left behind real quickly.
Yeah.
As you can see with the Cardinals 6-6. However, they're still like you said, they're a great team. Man, like, are they really 6-6 skill level? Mm-hmm. Probably not. They're probably more of a like at least an 8 to 9 win team.
Yeah,
if they weren't in this division.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray went 21 for 39, 173 yards, so a little bit less than what we're used to seeing. 3 touchdowns and an interception. Mm-hmm. Kenyon Drake, yeah, he went back to, I feel like, what we kind of expect from Kenyon Drake. He had 49 yards on 10 carries and a touchdown. Chase Edmonds gave a little bit of help with 28 yards on 6 carries, but nothing crazy. So the ground game was kind of kind of left a lot to be wanted. However, in the receiving game, Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold, 2 receptions, 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
He had like a huge... the one of the 60 was a huge touchdown. It was a great play right into the end zone.
Yeah, so he had some good help from him.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins had a respectable game with 52 yards, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot of yardage, but he got that touchdown and 8 receptions, which is pretty good against this team, really. Budda Baker led the team with tackles with 10. There were no interceptions, and they only had 1 sack. But a really cool thing, Chase Edmonds had a kick return for 54 yards. So, I mean, that was kind of cool to see. But yeah, the Cardinals, they just didn't do enough to beat these Rams, and I still kind of feel like Kyler Murray's shoulder is still kind of a factor. Mm-hmm, I don't know. Definitely. I feel like it's a bit under-talked.
I think he's still injured for sure. Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Because his like stats, they just kind of dropped ever since then, and it just I just feel like he's just not the same Kyler Murray that he was a couple weeks ago, and that's a very evident thing, that the shoulder injury. He did have 5 carries for only 15 yards, so the Rams did very well with containing him. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these Rams, they're coming to play. They're much better than the Rams that we grew up with. They're a real team now. They're someone to fear. The Cardinals, I feel like both these teams are just really good. Mm-hmm. And the Cardinals also by 10, but man,
the game definitely could have been closer-ish, but I mean, the game was pretty close.
Yeah, it really was. The Rams scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals scored 14. So I mean, it was a very score-heavy quarter. The Rams were able to keep the lead and keep up a bit with the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how the playoffs and the NFC go, because I mean, right now the AFC is really good and there's a lot of teams competing, and I'd say the NFC is pretty much just as good. This is one of those rare years where I feel like both sides, NFC and AFC, are almost just as good.
There's a lot of very good all football teams in general, and they've had just successful seasons.
I have no idea who's going to make the playoffs this year, and whoever does, it's going to be a great Super Bowl, whoever gets there, because, man,
it's going to be a toss-up for sure. I don't really see any, I guess, major favorites in most divisions, maybe besides the Chiefs. And
you got, like, the Chiefs and Packers.
But
at the same time, I feel like a team could come in and beat them. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about it earlier that this year is just so up in the air with who's the best, and any team can lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just don't know. I'm excited to talk even more about these upcoming games, even.
Yeah, me too.
Which we'll move to now. I'm going to talk about the Bucs and Vikings. This game is a very important game because Minnesota, as we've said in past weeks, is not necessarily out of the playoffs, I'd say. They're 6-6. They're at a point where they have 5 games left and they can definitely make a push here.
Yeah.
Tampa is 7-5, and this is a big game for them as well because, as we've talked about with NFC competition, we have the Rams and the Cardinals, and we have the Seahawks in that division, and those are 3 teams that could all get in. Even the Cardinals now, we have 6-6. Yeah. We'll see, and Minnesota's trying to push their way in potentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know. These games are they just get crazier and crazier after every week. We haven't. I feel like as we said before, I feel like we just have not had too many years like this where we've had games where we've had 6-6 and 7-5 teams, and we have a lot of teams that are 8-win, 9-win, even 6-win, 7-win teams
that are all really good. Like
and they all like could potentially compete in the playoffs, and they really like. I really genuinely could see the Vikings or the Bucks beating the Packers in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
either team. So
they both have the skill for it.
Yeah, they have the teams, they have the firepower with, Tom Brady and Jones and Evans and then Cousins and Cook and Jefferson and even Thielen now. So these teams have great firepower. I don't know. I think with the Bucks at home, even though obviously, as we've said every week, the COVID doesn't really matter as much just because we don't have as many fans. It's not making as big of an impact. But I just don't see the Buccaneers losing this game. I've said that in past, but I just don't see the Buccaneers losing this game. Yeah. I think the Bucks are probably the better team, especially since the Vikings did get rid of Yannick Ngakoue, and they kind of have a little bit of a depleted defense. So I would give this game to the Bucks. I feel like they're just the better team.
I feel like I would too, just with Tom Brady. He's just kind of a mastermind at quarterback. And, I mean, they got a decent defense. They got great weapons at offense. And I just feel like, especially on paper, they're the better team.
Yeah.
The Vikings, they're one of those teams, I feel like they could beat almost anyone, but it just depends on what Vikings you get. Just like other teams, I mean, I feel like with the emergence of Justin Jefferson, it's helped him quite a bit because he's been so good, like rookie of the year good. Like he's almost like that level, I feel like.
Yeah.
And they really needed that with losing Stephon Diggs last year. They kind of needed like a new receiver to step up, and I mean, he did it. And he's been helping Kirk Cousins so much. So I think it'll be a close game, but it's just hard to pick against the Bucs. It really, especially with these two teams, it's just you have Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Tom Brady, a great defense. But at the same time, Vikings are really in desperation mode. Like they got to keep winning if they want to get in the playoffs. They got to keep winning, and they're in a really good division, or pretty good division. They have a lot of competition for the playoffs, and they're one of those teams that are almost kind of, if you're in the NFC, you don't really want them to make the playoffs because they're kind of dangerous. They really are.
Yeah.
And they could make some noise in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, but I am going to pick the Bucs as well. I picked against Tom Brady one year in the playoffs, and I paid the price for it, so I can't do it again. So for my game, I picked the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's going to be a pretty decent game. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think the Bills are going to win. I think the Steelers are very overrated 11-1. They played very easy teams. They barely lost to the Ravens twice, and they barely lost to the Ravens practice squad basically last week. And the Ravens showed a lot of heart, but we'll get to that. The Steelers, they lead the league in drops by 10 passes. And you can really see that because a lot of teams, because a lot of players are just dropping the ball. Eric Ebron, Juju Smith has a few drops. Claypool, although I'd argue that some of his are more because of really good coverage. But there's just so many drops, and they don't have James Conner, although he is coming back this Sunday, which I think might help balance that pass rush ratio a little bit, because right now they're passing so much. And I mean,
with
Roethlisberger's old.
With the Steelers passing, I think that we've said this in past episodes, and it's weird. I feel like I've heard this a lot, But as we said before, when you get over 50 passes, it seems like it's weird because it seems like it's just a thing.
Yeah,
that, like Ben Roethlisberger's driving down the field at the end of their last game, and I'm like, he's getting to the 50 pass mark. It's weird that players don't win after that, and then he throws an interception.
After that point, it's like, I don't know if it's like their arm gets tired or what.
I don't know.
If you're throwing more than 50 times, usually you lose.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with the Ravens plenty of times. We've seen that with many, many other teams. Yeah. And, I mean, he went, like, last week against the Washington football team, which, the Steelers lost. No big deal. There's one major injury this week, and that was the Steelers fans' broken hearts. But, he went 33 for 53, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception against the Washington football team. So I think if they're going to beat the Bills, who are way better than the Washington football team, in my opinion at least, they're going to have to get some kind of balance here. Like, Ben Roethlisberger, he's old, He can't be throwing the ball 53 times. They got to, I say cut that down by like 20, maybe at the very least 10, get him throwing like 40 times. Like, he had 2 touchdowns and an interception last week, but the thing is, like, his receivers aren't really catching the ball a whole lot, and they're one of the worst teams at the deep ball.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of receivers designed for the deep ball. Juju Smith, Chase Claypool. I mean, Deontay Johnson's more of like a slot guy, I feel like, but like, or at least more of, an anything guy. But they just have a lot of receivers designed for the deep ball, and they can't do it. Because Roethlisberger is kind of inaccurate when it comes to the deep ball. An interesting thing about the Steelers is that Ben Roethlisberger has really changed his style from holding the ball very long to getting rid of the ball immediately, like 2 seconds, 2.2 seconds. And so I don't remember who said it. I don't know if it was someone on the Washington football team or what, but they were like, I mean, I can't even get to him in that amount of time. Like, that's a really hard time to sack that man in like two and some seconds. And I feel like that's a very good pivot in Ben Roethlisberger's like style, because at this age he should be getting rid of the ball quicker, because he's not going to be as elusive as he once was. But I mean, they really their receivers had to step up. Deontay Johnson, I mean, he had 8 catches, but 71 yards and a touchdown. Eric Ebron has really been dropping the ball a lot. If you look at Ben Roethlisberger last week and you look at Josh Allen last week, you're going to think Josh Allen's going to win this week, because Josh Allen looked great last week. He went 32 for 40, 375 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dude was on fire.
Yeah.
And, they're finally starting to get kind of a running game a little bit. Devin Singletary had 61 yards last week, but they're starting to get some help at least. And, Cole Beasley stepping up for them. Stephon Diggs, of course, is stepping up for them. And you really, on the Steelers side, you got to get that receiver to step up. I feel like Juju Smith hasn't really taken that Antonio Brown role.
Not yet,
Yeah, and the top corners have been kind of on him. He hasn't done a whole lot. His company receivers haven't done much to help him. Claypool is really good for a few weeks, but he's kind of like, settled down a bit recently. But I definitely have the Bills here. I feel like the Steelers really are a very overrated 11-1 team. I think they just have had very fortunate scheduling, despite them having to play like 3 games in 12 days or whatever their excuse is.
Whatever
now.
The complaint was, yeah.
Yeah. So I cannot see the Bills losing this game. And I think they're better. They do have James Conner back, so like I said, maybe they can get that balance a little bit better, but I can't see the Bills losing this game. Josh Allen looked great this week. Like I said, like we've said many podcasts, I feel like at least 2 or 3 of them, the Bills have got to get this rushing game down to really be consistent.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, both had to step it up. Zach Moss only had 9 yards last week. Like, you gotta, And I think he had a fumble. I don't remember if they won it or not.
He had a very bad fumble.
Yeah, it was at the goal line.
Yeah, and that's why he didn't run much because he fumbled.
So, they've got to figure that one out.
The Bills need to figure out their rush game for sure. I actually don't agree. I think the Steelers will win this game. I think that the Steelers are definitely overrated, but I don't think that they're bad at all, though. I still think they're very good. I think that once they get out the drops, which I think they will, I think that Deontay Johnson, they still have some very great receivers. I just think that maybe they're having a little bit of trouble with how fast Ben's been getting the ball out because of their line. I still think the Steelers are going to bounce back. I think with the addition of James Conner, that will definitely help their rushing game. But granted, they still don't have bad rushing. I say that I would agree that if I was a Steelers fan, I would be very disappointed with the decisions. So I just think with James Conner, I would definitely question Mike Tomlin's ability to have the way his offense was run last week. I think that they should have run more, and they have Benny Snell, and also I will always rep Anthony McFarland because he's from University of Maryland.
Sure.
So I think that the Steelers just didn't play a great game plan. I think the Steelers, for some reason, are forcing the pass when they have good running options, even without James Conner in.
I feel like it's worked for them up to this point. So they just, if it ain't broke, why fix it? And they just kept doing it, even though everyone else in the league knew that it was barely working for them. So they just kind of kept with it. Yeah.
But no, I think the Steelers will win the game. I don't know. I think that they'll be due for a comeback game, and now that they're finally not now that they finally have lost a game, they'll kind of come back and make a good effort here. But yeah.
Yeah, no, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, I feel like are kind of similar with that. They don't like to lose 2 games twice. Yeah. They really don't. So Mike Tomlin's a great coach, despite what anyone, even Steelers fans, say. He's a great coach. So I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna stick with the Bills, but onto the probably very short Ravens section since they haven't played yet this week.
But we did lose to the Steelers, but it was with a lot of backups. And
let me tell you, I feel like this week against the Steelers, we showed the most heart out of any game this year.
Yeah.
We showed with backups. Like, the line blocked like crazy. People were making plays. We had RG3, then we had Trace McSorley. It looked like a team that wanted to win, despite who they were playing, the undefeated team. And they almost did. I really liked what I saw last week. And this week, we just found out that Dez Bryant is now COVID positive and is probably not playing. Well, it's definitely not playing tonight.
It's like, how do they even play the game at this point? 20 minutes before the
This is the problem with NFL's COVID. I feel like the NBA did such a better job. The NFL, Dez Bryant just tested positive for COVID, so other players on the team have COVID probably at this point, because he's been in close contact. And I mean, maybe some of the Cowboys do because he was hugging players and coaches right before the game. So I mean, okay, Dez Bryant doesn't play tonight, but how many other players now have COVID because of it? It's just, oof. It's rough, and it sucks that we're not going to get Dez Bryant tonight because this was his revenge game. I know he was looking forward to it. And, I mean, revenge, he wasn't upset at Dallas, but, still, it was
such a bummer. So now we're not really getting the revenge game that we had hoped. But
you're all getting the real reaction from us. This really sucks. Dez Bryant was going to go off tonight. It was destined to happen, or at least have a good game.
But I still think the Ravens get this win tonight. Obviously, it's 7. We are almost at game time, actually. It's 7:40 at this point.
Yeah,
but
we had to end this.
But I do think that the Ravens will get this win tonight. But, I mean, it's just such a bummer with Dez Bryant at this point. But we'll see what happens. I do think that Lamar will still play well. I like Lamar's chances to break out this week.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Ravens as well. I felt like the Cowboys would be the one team that would maybe give us trouble, but I I don't think it's actually going to happen. Dez Bryant being out really sucks because I really just want to see how he would play against them. But here we are with the team we have. So, we played great last week against the Steelers. We have a lot of players back this week. I don't see us losing, especially going up against Andy Dalton. We know how he plays. Zeke hasn't been a whole lot this year really, ever since Dak went out. So I think the Ravens will win. Last week, like I said, I thought it was a really good game for the Ravens. We did everything we could for who we had in the game. Mm-hmm. I'm not disappointed with them at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even Chase Young credited the Ravens for exposing some weaknesses in the Steelers. So this week, I'm going to give it to the Ravens. It sucks we don't have Dez Bryant. It really does. But we're gonna make do. We're gonna do fine. We'll be okay. Dez Bryant will be back in 2 weeks, maybe at this point. Maybe. But it's a bummer, and that's hard to get past. But Ravens tonight. It's a short Ravens segment. Sorry, but it's COVID. Yeah. Blame it on that.
No, it's okay. And with that, we'll actually move on to the Simply Splendid Player of the Week. Josh, who's your Simply Splendid Player of the Week?
All right, so my Simply Splendid Player of the Week, and I feel like I rarely have my Simply Splendid Player of the Week on my fantasy team, but this week I did. Darren Waller, he balled out last week. He really did. 13 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of probably his best games of the season. He just balled out for the Raiders, and he really played to his potential because everyone knows Darren Waller's a great tight end. And he showed it this week. 200 yards, that's crazy for a tight end. 13 receptions, 2 touchdowns. He went off. He had a great game. He had 45 points. I still lost by 68 points. Crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's my Simply Splendid Player of the Week. He's in the lineup every week, of course, because he's Darren Waller. Yeah. And, I have nothing bad to say about him.
It's funny. My Simply Splendid Player of the Week is also a tight end.
Travis Kelce?
It's always Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce just plays too well for me to not have him in. And he had 27.6 fantasy points, 8 receptions on 136 yards and 1 touchdown.
And incredible.
He's second in the league in receiving yards at 1,114. And he also actually now officially became the first receiver to have 5 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. So
the first tight end.
The first tight end. I'm sorry. He's the first tight end to have 1,000 yards straight, 1,000-yard seasons.
The crazy part is he's probably got a few more to come.
I mean, he's 31 at this point, so I mean he has 1,114 yards. So
when does Travis Kelce stop being amazing?
I don't know. It's crazy. He has 5 this year alone. He has 7 games. 7 out of the 12 weeks of the season, he scored 20 points or more in fantasy, and he's only scored single digits once this year. So
crazy. I feel like as long as he's in this offense, he's going to be amazing.
It's incredible. Travis Kelce just continues to produce. He's averaging 20 points a week. 20 points from a tight end.
See, the crazy thing is Darren Waller is probably top 3 tight ends, but he's been so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, like you said, he averages 20 points a week. Every week he gets that. He's incredible every week.
Yeah, it boggles my mind. It was funny. I was watching the game a little bit, the Chiefs game a little bit, and then I left a friend's house, and I was like, I don't know if Travis Kelce is going to do much because he only had, I think, 5 or 6 in the first half.
Oh, he did much.
And then I looked at my phone later on, and I was like, oh, okay, I had 21 points. That's cool.
Yeah, but no big deal. It's just it's Travis Kelce tings.
Yeah,
really.
he's a great tight end, but I mean that's my Simply Splendid Player of the Week. And I think actually with that, I think that's all we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah, I think that does it.
this week. Thank you for listening again. We're excited for the Ravens game that's coming up in the next 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're going to get off here. But thank you for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And we really appreciate you consistently being on, listening to us.
Yeah, every week I mean to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but I forget. Check out that Patreon, check out the tiers, and, check out the episodes on there. We're keeping it on YouTube for those 2 special listeners that always listen on YouTube, but yeah, definitely check out the Patreon. We appreciate you listening every week. It's super fun to make for you all. So, yeah, thanks for everything.
Yeah.
And that's it for me.
Yeah. No, thank you again. And we'll see you again next week.